of LLI. After I realized that I can't give education with no electricity, I decided to become an entrepreneur in energy. And so I started a solar company whereby we do solar home systems, and now we have progressed from solar home systems to actually doing small mini grids. And that's how my journey has taken me, not only from the United States back to Kenya, from Kenya now to Rwanda. That's exactly what I'm doing in Rwanda. How did I learn through this whole journey that I could actually change completely what I was planning to do? Completely from education to energy. First of all, I am so happy. I'm with women here, mostly women. Because in the energy sector, guess what? I usually like, myself. I was in South Africa last week, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. You know, women, I was the only one representing, because in the energy sector, most people are guys. And although we are not big players, we are very small players, we are a small company, we are a startup, we are not big players, but at least we are there. Now, why is it important for me to actually become more interested in energy? Because energy poverty is the one that is actually affecting whether girls and rural people in Africa go to school. So, and that's my little journey. And I hope next time I'll be having more time to share my journey when I'm in India.
Thank you, Naya. Which Harbin was saying earlier, that you learned that Naya means new. And that really goes, it echoes your diasporic perspective, that you brought the newness into Rwanda with the work you did and doing at the grassroots level. So thank you for being here. And I'm sorry to cut you short, but we want to hear more about your journey offline. So please be with us and share with us every moment we have off today together. Thank you. With that, I'd like to call on Rashi Menda, the founder and CEO of Zappo, to tell us more about her.
Thank you for having me here today. So my journey is not that long enough to talk about. I started Zappo about 2 years back, and that was literally after 45 days of my marriage. And since we come from Indian families where it's all about getting married when you're young, when you're 23, 24, all your parents can think about is shadi kab hai. And that's what happened with me. From the very first day I graduated, I wanted to become an entrepreneur. I wanted to start something of my own. But as my dad kept saying, it's very important for you to know what exactly you want to start, where, what industry you want to start in. You have to do your groundwork, know what market you belong to. And I worked for a couple of years, and after I got married, I was like, now what next? Because my family made it clear to me, you can't do a job, and if you want to work with us in our company, this is a sector that you'll be working in, which is marketing. Yes, marketing excited me, but that's not where I belonged. I wanted to create something of my own, and I remember I was on my honeymoon and I said, this is all done, like I did get married and now I want to get started. I was really excited, and one idea and one thing that kept bothering me was while I was packing my clothes and going into my new house, which was what exactly am I going to wear? Because there are about 80% of the clothes that I've not even touched here. 20% of the times I'm repeating my clothes. 80% of the times I'm repeating the 20% of the clothes that are in my closet. So how do I put everything together? What do I know, what my in-laws will like me wearing and things like that. And that's when I said, why not create a platform for such women? As women, we love shopping. After every 45 days, we are, creating new closet by adding more and more things. So I said, why not create a platform where women know what's sitting inside the closet? And within an app, they can create combinations within styles, and also have a stylist on mobile for them, and help them create looks, so they don't end up investing too much in looks that they're not looking for exactly. So that's when the whole idea of Zapile came together, and that was 2 years back. And when I stepped into it, I was very clear. I said, I'm not going to take money from my family. It's because it's my baby, and I always want to make it that way. That's when the roller coaster ride started. When you're married, looking for funding. I know you are really looking for entrepreneurs with fresh ideas, but it was otherwise for me. It was all about getting the team together, getting my ideas validated, and I met almost 75 investors before I got funded. And that whole journey made me realize that I need to know more and more about what I'm doing. And 3 things had to be clear, which is clarity of the idea, which is passion. Every single morning I woke up saying, I want to do more of this. Every night I slept saying, I want to just get done with it. Because it was a really rough journey. And the third one is to never be apologetic. Right? As women, what we end up doing is we keep telling our family, no, it's not me who's built it, it's you, it's the family that supported me. In the end, it's you. You are the one who's running this whole, business and creating something of your own. So let's just accept it. So as a woman, that's something that we need to start doing. So that's a little bit of my journey and about my baby, which is Zapile. Thank you.
May you keep bringing high fashion into all our wardrobes. You have our blessings. I'd like to invite Lavlin Thadani to speak with us about her journey, please. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So nice to see such an attentive, beautiful audience this morning. Enjoy your cups of tea and coffee while I'll try and in very short tell you a little about myself. I have a company that produces films, and I was teaching at JNU. I was teaching MA classes and teaching Russian literature. And I had 21 students, and I thought, my God, is this something that I'll keep doing year after year, repeating myself? And if my PhD is only meant to teach 21 students, which is not bad at all, why don't I actually have the entire India learning something, especially women in rural areas that needed help, that needed awareness. Jagriti is what they needed. So I started making films on social issues, and now my company is, we have made 125 films on social issues, mainly pertaining to women and children's problems. But what I'm here to talk about is not my achievements, but I want to share a very special journey, which I think most of us, most women go through. Journey of joy, journey of intense pain, journey of neglect, journey of being put on the side and be told, okay, we as men know it all, and you can just follow what we tell you to do. I think that is very, very demeaning for any woman, and no woman should fall a prey to that. I sometimes write poetry and I write fables and stories, also being one of the editors with Hindustan Times, so I've done a bit of journalism and photography. And the story that I'm writing nowadays is about an eagle. You all know what an eagle is. And she has such a lovely flight. graceful. She just glides in the air. And one day, people like you and myself, and dear Harbeen, came out and saw in blue, crystal blue sky, an eagle flying and gliding very, very gracefully, but on one wing. The seagull had only one wing. So people were wondering, how is she flying? How can she fly so gracefully with just one wing and not lose her balance? So in short, the story means that even when you're wounded, even when your one wing is chopped off, you can still fly because there is a divine wing that comes to you. Thank you. So I think when we're talking about creativity, productivity, entrepreneurship and all of that, the main thing to remember, what has helped me in life, is that to align your goodness of heart, goodness of soul, goodness of being. Once all that is there, aligned with nature, because nature is beautiful and all merciful. So when you align yourself with the best forces of nature, it always comes back to give you huge rewards. You don't do it because you want a reward, it just happens. Goodness meets goodness and the magic begins to weave itself. I have been through lots of ups and downs, but I am a very happy person. I am a contented person. I have no time for tears. Every tear of mine has carried a smile because it gives me a new promise, a new hope, and new creativity. All of you are innovations of God. So when God could innovate you and create you, why can't you innovate and create your life? It's simple. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your beautiful soul-stirring words and that beautiful, inspiring story. That's very touching. Thank you so much. I would like to invite Vandini Mehta to speak with us, followed by Rohit Raj, very closely, running short on time. Yes, you hear the bell, don't worry. Short story. So, I'm sharing the stage on the gender parity note with my husband, Rohit Raj, who will speak after me. But it's such an honor to be here, really, with such a dynamic, varied, and very inspiring group, I have to say. I mean, every story is so inspiring. And I have another simple story. I actually came with a 36-slide long PowerPoint presentation. I'm an architect. We are both architects. And we show our work. We don't generally talk about what we do. And so I was caught unawares. So this is all extempore. If I'm fumbling a little bit, do excuse me. So I'm an architect, trained undergrad as an architect. And then I did a master's in architecture, but in a multidisciplinary field, where I could choose from other areas of study like anthropology, geography, etc. And that was really sparked off by my first experience after my architectural education in a small non-profit, well, not a very small non-profit, but in a place in the rural areas of Udaipur called Seva Mandir. And I worked there as an architect, but I was thrown into all sorts of, being in a small place, they needed people who could write well, who could talk in English. So I was thrown into various fields of work, from development issues to writing reports to making their showrooms, working with women, working with their Panchayati Raj education system. So and also my education at CEPT Ahmedabad, which was the architecture school, sort of it prepared me for a very multidisciplinary approach to life. And I want to just talk about that in the aspect of creativity and innovation today, because I feel women in general are really multifaceted. And that's something in me I'm constantly confused about, I have to admit. And also that's what I adore about myself.
because I want to do different things all the time. So right now, I'm trying to be a mother, of course a wife and a babu, but I have an architectural profession, practice. I teach at School of Planning and Architecture in Delhi and also in Sushant Lok, Gurgaon. As an urban designer and as an architect, I also am an educator of little children, where we do reading sessions with little children, my daughter's age. So I had reinvented, as I had a daughter, of her interests and my interests coming together so we could enjoy learning together. And I also work with my husband, so we have a working, living relationship, which is always very interesting. There's constant give and take. But it's been very rewarding because I feel it's given me the chance to be able to live this multifaceted life, which I really enjoy. So I leave it at that, so that we can share equally our space here. But it's really thank you for inviting me.
I think after this you have to continue. I can't compete with that. So, no, I can't compete being a mother and educator and a practitioner and also teaching young kids. Actually, I just want to say this because architecture is still a very gender-biased profession. I mean, when we were in undergrad together, Vandini and I, we belonged to the same batch. There were 17 women and 13 guys. I mean, in education, there's been a huge shift because I think 60s when CEP started. CEP, if people don't know, is B.V. Doshi's school in Ahmedabad. It's the topmost ranked school in India. And when it started, there was one woman for 30 men. By the time we came, there were 17 women to 13 men. But in the profession, it still remains the same. You know, it's very, very difficult for women. Like you said, that when you go to conferences, you're the only woman and there are men all around you. I mean, for us, I take it for granted, but when you go to sites and everything, there are only men around you and you see that. So, double the applause to Vandini to manage to stick on to the profession. And so, that's about it. I want to say that, and I want her to continue her story because it's really about her.
I think we've had a really interesting sort of practice together also, where again this whole multidisciplinary approach is part of our practice. So our practice, we call it art, architecture and urbanism, where Rohit is an avid artist. I'm an artist in other ways. He's a photographer also. We're both architects, of course. But we also want to bring into architecture the research component. So not only do we teach, but we also do active research in the urban realm, and we take part in urban conferences, and want to have sort of this dialogue between practice and sort of thinking about the practice also. So we are hoping to continue this multifaceted dimension, multidisciplinary dimension. I think that is really the key to success in the world. I think if we don't collaborate and have multiple dimensions in whatever we do, and I think entrepreneurship is all about collaboration. So I think with that, I thank you all.
I just want to share, because I share a little history here. So Rohit and I studied music together. I think he stuck on, I quit, I continue in the shower, but he continues in a more disciplined way. And I wanted to take a moment here to connect the dots between what you just said about multifaceted and creative collaborations between research, discipline, art, photography, all of that. So incidentally, Rohit's from MIT. Rebecca here is also, we've had about 4 speakers from there. And what they do Vinay is also from MIT. What they do and what I learned from there is, even there, a school which is dedicated to the sciences and to the geniuses in the sciences, now they have a rule where 25% of the courses are to be taken by every student in the art stream. So you have a theatre department, you have a music department, you have piano, you have everything. And I think I go back to the education session we had early this morning, where we're really talking about education and rethinking education as the base of everything, and not functioning in silos alone, collaborative, interdisciplinary. And I think you are products of that education, and we see that vibrance in your work that comes across. So thank you, Vandini and Rohit, for joining us here this morning. Yeah. Continuing with multifaceted, an absolute privilege to call and invite Mr. Jerry Almeida to speak with us, a globally renowned and much sought after leadership coach and a missionary entrepreneur, here to tell us about his journey. Welcome.
So, namaste. The best you can do, let's all stand up, please. Let's all stand up. I take this very seriously. It's more sacred for me than the Janagana Mana. So please stand up. Please stand up and let's say namaste nicely. Namaste. Namaste. Thank you so much. Please sit down. So how many of you have grown up using the word namaste? All of you? Very nice. Excellent. So all of you know the meaning of the word? You've not been saying namaste at the WEF, have you? It's not so cool, right? It's very down market. And it's so low. Hey dude, what's up bro is cooler. And that's the reason we probably don't know the meaning of the word namaste. But before I tell you the meaning of the word namaste, I'm here because of Shubha, who first reached out to me. And we have had a long journey together. And thank you, Dr. Harbin, for inviting me. When I first got the invitation, I was wondering what would I be speaking at the Women's Economic Forum, because I speak normally to an audience which is mostly comprising of men. So it's very heartening to see that in this delegation there are more women, and the women have outnumbered the men. So I'm not going to tell you any story of my own or my wife's, who was to be here like Vandini and Rohit Raj have showed in full force. But she had an emergency, so she couldn't be with us. Her name is Jugnu. But neither am I going to tell you Jugnu's story or my story. I'm going to cover the topic which has not been covered much, which is not creative entrepreneurship or gender parity, but the lack of gender parity. And it's a topic which is very dear to my heart. And it's very connected to Namaste, because Namaste basically means that the God in me respects the God in you, the divinity in me respects and salutes the divinity in you, and the unlimited potential in me recognizes the unlimited potential in you, whether you're a woman, a man, a transgender, a hijra, a homosexual, a lesbian, or anybody from any part of life, you're a human being. And somewhere, because we have not really practiced the meaning of this word, we've lost that equality, we've lost that respect, we've lost that humility, we've lost that fairness. And I always joke with people that the only concept of fairness in our country and culture, where this word namaste originated, is fair and lovely and fair and handsome. And nowadays fair armpits. But otherwise the basic concept of fairness for all is missing. How many of you work in corporate India? Very nice. I was very happy to listen to Sanjeevji, who spoke about his mother and spoke about how many companies are very gender balanced today. I think Tata's probably is, and I use the word probably, but most are not. And it's that they have that gender policy or diversity and inclusion on paper, and I say this with a lot of qualification because I am a corporate trainer and a leadership coach. I work with a lot of companies, and I also coach and counsel a lot of women who become victims of gender biases. Whether it's about promotions, whether it's about the way men treat them in the corporate space, or in even an organization like the UN or INGOs. I'm sure some of you are from the UN and INGOs here, and you know how it works.